Alright, here we are for another match. I can tell you I'm not in the greatest mood. We're going to keep this in because it's quite good except for the fact that I don't have a second green source, but not in a great mood because I just lost to Affinity. Again. And it wasn't even worth recording because it was basically game one. My opponent had the literal absolute best nuts draw you could have. Even drew into a Galvanic Blast, and I just got screwed. Game two, my opponent went. I was on the play. I went land Glistener Elf. My opponent went land go. I went Ranker. And my opponent went turn two a Tog, and I Distortion Striked for the win. And then game three, I mulled to four because I am still of the firm belief that you don't keep a hand without any infect creatures in it. That's a decent draw. And no, I guess I can't F8. And then I drew a Blighted Agent, but my opponent kept a hand with Standard Bearer, which I haven't seen Standard Bearer in forever. So you know, no matter what deck I play, I just can't beat Affinity. Affinity hashtag best deck. I'm a little salty. Um, so Swiftwater Cliffs could mean Blue Red Drake, I guess. Firebolt. No. No. I'd like my Bladed Agent to live, please. If you don't mind, sir. Still could be Blue Red Drake. Not exactly sure. Oh, well. Um, no, I guess I could just pay the blue. I don't actually need to pay the life here. Okay, so it is Blue Red Drake with the Radiant Fountains. So let's go ahead and do some of this. Their hand's not great, which is good. Another Mutagenic Growth is decent. Very decent. I almost said dece. I hate that word. No offense to anybody who says it. Put my opponent to 3. So if I draw a green source next turn, I win the game, assuming my opponent taps out. If my opponent goes to kill one of my creatures, I will save it with Vines of the Vastwood. So that is something. So we'll see what my opponent decides to do. Actually, I do have something to say while my opponent is thinking. So in the league I did last week with Mono Green Infect, I played the Blue Green Infect deck in the fourth match of the league. And we get to game 3, and I attack with my opponent's at 0 poison, and I attack with an 11 power creature, and my opponent blocks with a Blight Mamba. And is tapped out, doesn't pump it, doesn't mutagenic growth or anything. Magic Online decided to ask me, was it okay to make it so that my opponent takes 9 and the creature takes 2. And to this day, I still can't believe that that happened. Um, so I could mutagenic growth here to pump my Glistener Elf to kill the Seagate Oracle. I think that's fine because it turns off the ghostly flickers in his hand from drawing cards. And alright. So I'm going to take 2 here to keep the vines open. I'm not going to cast the Blight Mamba. And if my opponent goes like Compulsive Research into Flame Slash, I can Vines of the Vastwood. And then, let's see, that'd be 1, 2, plus 4. So that'd be 6. I would win the game. I just need a second green source and I win the game. So we'll see how that works. Vines of the Vastwood can also be kind of good because you can target the Peregrine Drake when they try to Ghostly Flicker it, and then they can't do anything about it. Let's go ahead and Vines. If they drew a counter spell, can't do much about it. Just happens. So we'll see if they drew a counter spell. Looks like they did. All right. It's unfortunate. But we have a Blight Mamba to make up for it, and they're tapped out. Alright, we have another Blighted Agent, I guess, so that also works. Put them to 5. So now, if my opponent doesn't play a blocker, because my opponent doesn't have this, or these, or this, so the compulsive research, ghostly flicker, and 2 blanks. So we'll see what happens. Again, another force wins the game as long as my opponent doesn't have a counterspell or a response to my Vines of the Vastwood and my Blighted Agent. If they don't play a blocker and they don't have a removal spell, then any, I think anything wins. Okay. Oh no, not just anything wins. I think because I don't think Groundswell wins, right? Because that would only be 4 that put them to 9. Yeah, Mutagenic Growth doesn't automatically win. Some things win. I guess Rancor doesn't. So not everything wins, but another Forest or um. So my opponent has Compulsive Research, Ghostly Flicker, and then 3 cards that I don't know about. I think I'm gonna save it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna save it because, again, if I draw a Seal of Strength, I win the game. Um, I could always just go Blight Mamba next turn, put my opponent to 7, and then any pump spell that I draw makes 3 lethal creatures. So that'll be helpful. If my opponent just combos off, what are you going to do? Distortion Strike, okay. So now I can hit my opponent. So Distortion Strike is interesting because now what this does is it puts my opponent to 8, and now if my opponent taps out for Firebolt, they don't win. If and they'll need more, and they'll need an instant speed removal spell, so they'll need Bolt, or they will need Counterspell or something in addition. So my opponent has Compulsive Research, Ghostly Flicker, and they drew a Drake, so they're just gonna cast Drake. And again, if they combo off, they combo off. There's nothing I can do about it. Unfortunately, having a second island screwed me, so that is something to think about in this regard. So we will see what happens. Okay, so my opponent cast a Firebolt, and I'm going to cast this on Blight Mamba, because if they did get lucky and drew a Lightning Bolt, then I can save it. And we drew a Rancor. I think I'm just going to attack for 2. This way, if they go to kill my Blight Mamba, I can save it. Looks like I win the game. Alright, sweet. Hold on a second. Alright, so in this matchup, I think we may want a couple of Dispels. I think Distortion Strike is not at its absolute best. I think the Ichor Claw Mirror is still sort of fine. Rancor isn't great, but I still think keeping it at 4 is good. I think we could just shave a Probe. I don't want to bring in too many Dispels. I don't really want to dilute the deck too much. You know, so that is something. Also, by the way, when that incident happened with the man, I hope I get a trophy soon. I mean, I did go undefeated in the league once. Does that count? um, when I went back to check the replay of that game, sure enough, my opponent was at 0 poison when I attacked with my 11 power creature. So I don't know what Magic Online was trying to pull, but I didn't appreciate it. So all I'm saying is, man, be very careful. That's all I'm saying. Um, this hand is not great, but I think it's still okay. We need a second land, and we have 2 probes to do it. The distortion. So this is basically like what I would keep on a mulligan to 6, like except like pretend that Distortion Strike isn't really there. You know what I mean? So that is something. Okay. So we can probe here just to see what my opponent is working with. I guess I should have probed first to see if I drew a Glistener Elf, but I don't think I'd even cast Glistener Elf. My opponent brought in Stone Rain. That's interesting. So my opponent has a second land, but nothing really going on. And I drew a Vines. Okay. So they're going to play the island, I assume, unless they drew a tap land. Where the heck is the thing? Alright. So the island's gone, assuming... I wish you could see the art of the island. That would actually help a lot. Alright, so... Nah, I don't think I'm going to probe him. So let's just go with Ichor Mir. I think it's the creature I'm willing to lose. See if they drew a counterspell. They did not. Not too far off from being able to win the game as well. So that is good. Ichor Mir is also the best because if they drew a third island, yeah, they get to play Seagate Oracle, and now if they block, I don't have to actually do anything. Of course, I do have Distortion Strike, though, so what I could do is I could D-Strike, put my opponent to 2, and the next turn, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and my opponent... Well, wait. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be game. In that case... Because my opponent doesn't have a Flame Slash. Let's see if my opponent drew a red source. They did draw a red source, so we can erase this now. Oh, that I don't want to click. New. So they drew a red source, and I drew another mutagenic growth. Is that game? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? It's not quite game. I could also just attack my opponent. See, because my opponent has a Flame Slash. So, if I attack for Z... Because the problem here is, I attack for 0. Well, wait. So, they don't have a counterspell. So let's assume that they block here. And next... Well, I could Distortion Strike, attack them for 2. Maybe they go to Flame Slash. I Vines with Vastwood it, and then next turn that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They would actually die. I think I'm just going to go for the win next turn. And hold up this Vines of Vastwood and not play the Seal of Strength. And my opponent has to believe that I have the win here. So, hopefully they just go like Flame Slash, Compulsive Research, and don't do anything. If this also wins the game, even if their plan is to Stone Rain me, so that is also a good thing. This plan also wins with just Stone Raining. Okay, so there goes the mountain. Still have 4 cards that I know of. So we'll have to see what happens. Distortion Strike showing its way, dude. Alright. So the Stone Rain's gone. And I'm just going to suspect they don't have Dispel in their hand. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to suspect it. Or Spell Pierce or whatever. That's funny. Play Seal of Strength. Oh, well, 1 Dispel doesn't win the game, right? Yeah, 1 Dispel doesn't actually win the game. So, unless my opponent has... Oh, 1 Dispel does save him, actually. Alright, second Mutagenic Growth. Don't have an Unsummon effect. And attack for 9. GG's. Yeah, GG's. Alright. Beat the Drake deck. Sweet. So, again, Distortion Strike showing its worth. It really is. Shouts to Worth Worldport. But Distortion Strike and Gitaxian Probe showing their worth as well. So that was the second match. So far we are um so far we are 2-1. Um I think I'll just show the Affinity matchup as the third match, or I think I'll just show the replays of that since you know it's kind of a good way to show, so things. So yeah, I'll be back with the replay and I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.